The silence aboard the Pioneer 12 was a physical thing. It wasn't the mere absence of sound. It was a presence, a thick, velvety blanket that settled over the ship's sterile corridors and hummed in unison with the life support systems. For Captain Elias Vance, it was the sound of mission success. 3 months into a long-range survey mission on the fringe of charted space, and everything was running with a clockwork precision that bordered on the mundane. He found a strange comfort in the quiet, a testament to his crew's competence.
His first officer, Anya Sharma, was at her station, her dark eyes scanning the navigational arrays. She was the soul of the ship, empathetic and sharp, the one who could read the mood of the crew with a glance. Across from her, Chief Engineer Liam O'Reilly, a man built like a barrel with a shock of red hair and a perpetual smudge of grease on his cheek, muttered to himself as he ran diagnostics on the engine harmonics. He was a man of steel and sparks who trusted the feel of a wrench in his hand more than any computer readout. Then there was Dr. Eris Thorne, the emissions xenolinguist and psychologist. Thin, intense, with eyes that seemed to see layers of reality everyone else missed. He spent most of his time in the lab, studying stellar cartography or running complex algorithms on background radiation, searching for patterns where none existed. Or so Vance thought. The peace shattered with a sound that was fundamentally wrong. It wasn't a blaring alarm. It was a whisper, faint and distorted, bleeding into the comms channel from the deep space monitoring away. It was a ghost of a signal, a breath of static that resolved for a single heart-stopping second into a human voice. "Anyone reading, please?" Anya was the first to react, her fingers flying over the console. "Captain, I'm picking up a fragmented transmission. Source is proximal." Vance was at her side in an instant. "Origin." "Triangulating, it's close. Bearing 224, Mark 18, it's the Icarus Array." A cold knot tightened in Vance's stomach. The Icarus Array was a deep space research outpost. It had gone silent 7 years ago. Official reports cited a catastrophic reactor failure. No survivors. "Run it again," Vance ordered, his voice low. The whisper came again, shredded by distance and entropy. "Is anyone out there? Pioneer? Please?" The use of their ship's name was like an electric shock. The crew exchanged glances. That was impossible. "They're calling us by name," Anya said, her voice hushed. "Impossible," O'Reilly grunted, leaning over her shoulder. "That tin can's been dead for years. Must be a glitch, a bounced signal from somewhere else distorted by a gravity well." Thorne, who had emerged from his lab at the commotion, shook his head slowly. "The signal decay is consistent with a point at origin at the Icarus' last known coordinates. The probability of that specific distortion is astronomically low." "There's a protocol for this," Vance said, his command voice masking his unease. "We investigate. Sharma, plot an intercept course. O'Reilly, I want full diagnostics on the long-range comms and the shuttle. Thorne, dig up everything you can on the Icarus Array's mission and its final transmission." The approach was a study in dread. The Icarus Array hung against the starfield like a dead insect, a sprawling skeletal structure of modules and solar panels. No running lights, no energy signatures beyond residual heat. It was a tomb. Vance led the boarding party himself, with O'Reilly and Thorne in tow. The shuttle docked with a hollow clang that echoed through the silence. The airlock cycled, and they stepped into the station's umbilical. The air was cold, stale, and carried the faint metallic tang of recycled oxygen and decay. But the station was not dead. Lights flickered on as they moved, motion-activated. Monitors glowed with standby symbols. The environmental systems hummed softly. It was pristine, as if the crew had just stepped out for a moment. "This is wrong," O'Reilly muttered, his hand resting on the multi-purpose tool at his belt. "Reactors are cold, life support is on minimal power, but the computers? They're active. It's like the place is being run by a ghost." They found the logs in the command module. The final entries told a chilling story. The crew had reported hearing things, whispers and the static of the comms at first, then in the ventilation shafts. The logs became increasingly fragmented, paranoid. They spoke of the silence itself feeling watchful. The station's psychologist, Dr. Evangeline Gray, had noted a pattern. The whispers seemed to reflect the listeners' deepest anxieties, voicing their secret fears, their hidden guilts. The final entry was a single, frantic sentence from the commander. "It's in the wires! It's in the…" The transmission cut off. Thorne looked up from the terminal, his face pale. A psychological vector, not a pathogen, an information-based parasite. It doesn't attack the body, it attacks the mind. A sudden sharp burst of static erupted from Vance's suit comm. He flinched, slapping a hand to his helmet. In the crackle, he heard it. A voice, faint and sibilant, layered over the noise. It was the voice of a young ensign from his first command, a boy who had died during a failed docking maneuver, a death Vance had replayed in his mind 1,000 times. "Did you hear that?" Vance snapped, his heart hammering against his ribs. O'Reilly and Thorne looked at him confused. "Hear what, Captain? Just static." Back aboard the Pioneer 1-2, the air had changed. The silence was no longer comfortable. It was expectant. Anya noticed at first a subtle tension in the way Vance held himself, the way his eyes darted toward the comms panel every few minutes. The whispers began in earnest that night. Anya was running a systems check when she heard it. A sigh, like a lover's breath right in her ear. Then words, clear and intimate. "You left her behind, Anya. Your sister. You were supposed to protect her. You chose the stars instead. She's so alone down there." She spun around, her breath catching in her throat. The medbay was empty. O'Reilly, elbow-deep in an access panel, heard the guttural tone of his long-dead father. "Still just a grease monkey, Liam. Never could build anything that truly lasted, could you? Just like your marriage. All your creations fall apart." He jerked back, slamming his head against the conduit, swearing into the empty engineering bay. Thorne didn't hear a voice. He heard equations, beautiful, terrifying theorems whispered directly into his consciousness, solutions to cosmic mysteries that hinted at a universe of unimaginable coldness and indifference, where humanity was a fleeting, irrelevant mistake. He frantically scribbled them down, his hands trembling, both horrified and enthralled. The Pioneer 1-2 was no longer a ship. It was an amplifier. The entity from the array hadn't stayed there. It had hitched a ride. It was in their systems, their comms, their very walls, learning them, tasting the unique flavors of their despair. Vance called a meeting in a mess hall. The faces of his crew were drawn, shadows under their eyes. "Report," he said, his own voice sounding hollow. They spoke in halting, ashamed sentences, revealing the deeply personal attacks. The thing knew. It knew everything. "It's a magnetic entity," Thorne said. "It exists as information. It propagates through auditory processing. It feeds on the psychic energy of strong emotion, fear, guilt, shame. The Icarus Array wasn't its source. It was its feeding ground. And now it's here." "How do we fight information?" Anya asked, her voice small. "We purge it," O'Reilly grunted. "A full systems wipe. Shut everything down, reboot from protected backups." "It's not just in the computers, Liam," Thorne countered. "It's in the static between the atoms. It's in the resonance of the hull plating. A wipe might contain it, but it might also just anger it." The lights flickered. The ship's ambient hum deepened, becoming a low, menacing drone. And then the voices came, not as whispers, but as a chorus speaking through the ship's intercom system. It spoke to each of them simultaneously, a symphony of their deepest horrors. Vance heard the screams of his dead crew accusing him. Anya heard her sister sobbing, begging for help that never came. O'Reilly heard the sound of twisting metal and the scornful laughter of everyone who'd ever doubted him. Thorne heard the void itself whispering the ultimate meaningless truth of existence, a truth that would shatter his mind. "Shut it down, O'Reilly!" Vance roared over the cacophony, clutching his head. "Now! Do it!" The engineer, fighting against the phantom sounds of his own failures, stumbled toward the main engineering terminal. His fingers, thick and clumsy with panic, flew over the console. Alarms blared as he initiated the emergency purge sequence. One by one, systems went dark. Lights died. The life support hum faded to a whisper, then to nothing. The artificial gravity wavered, leaving them in a drifting, weightless gloom. The only light came from the emergency strips along the floor, casting long, distorted shadows. The voices stopped. The silence that followed was absolute and deafening. It was a silence of a grave. They floated in a dark, 4 hearts hammering in the void, their breath loud in their helmets. "Did it work?" Anya whispered, her voice cracking. For a moment, there was nothing. Then a single
faint sound, a whisper not in their ears but inside their minds. It was clear now, no longer mimicking loved ones or past trauma. It was a voice of pure ancient hunger, and it was delighted. "You cannot starve me," it whispered into the heart of their silence. "I do not eat your power. I eat you. Your noise is my sustenance. Your silence is my playground. I have all the time in the world to learn your fears. And you have just turned out all the lights." In the utter blackness, devoid of the ship's familiar sounds, they were alone with it and with themselves. The entity had not been purged. It had been unleashed, free from a mask of technology, to play directly with its food in the dark. The psychological siege was over. The true horror had just begun.